Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Hell Yes Life podcast. I am your host, Norman Bell, and welcome back after a hiatus. I'm excited to have as my first guest in a while, Chase Boehringer. Chase is the founder of the Bucketlist Lifestyle. He is a world record holder, author, entrepreneur, and adventurer with the scars and passport stamps to prove it. After 6 years of completing his bucket list one item at a time, he now helps other people travel the world, crossing off their most epic items. Chase, welcome to the Hell Yes Life podcast.
Thank you so much. Honestly, I'm really excited to be here. I love the podcast.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. Are you ready to tell us about your Hell Yes Life, Chase?
Let me think about it. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. All right. Let's do it. So we're going to get into everything that you're up to, Chase, and you can tell us all about the bucket list lifestyle. But I always like to start off by asking our guests, what is your hell yes? And by that, I mean, what is that thing that really lights you up and makes you come alive? What's your passion?
Yeah. So it's interesting because the last 6 years, I've had a really consistent hell yes, which is the feeling of awe, the feeling of seeing or experiencing something that is beyond your perception of what reality could possibly be. It's that much better. However, it's shifted in the last year and a half to now actually experiencing awe through others. And which is a really, really unique thing to shift. And I realized that from now that I'm taking people on the adventures that I went on myself, now I get, that same feeling that I got from seeing the Taj Mahal from someone else seeing the Taj Mahal for the first time,
Wow. So yeah, you experienced that yourself. Now you're sharing that experience with others and getting to see them experiencing it for the first time. Really.
Yeah, there's something around fulfillment for me around that, because it's like when you do it for yourself, it's amazing. It's needed, incredible, and when you're able to give that as a gift to someone else, it's just even more fulfillment.
Awesome. I've interviewed other people who have talked about the ripple effect as being like one of their favorite, one of the things that really lights them up, of like, that they do something and then that has a ripple effect to someone else, and then three or four degrees out, that they wouldn't have even guessed, or people that they haven't even met. And it sounds somewhat similar to what you're saying there, is like, watching other people's joy in experiencing these things. So tell me a little bit about the bucket list lifestyle.
Well, we started out as just a travel blog. Honestly, like I was just wanting to get rid of that stupid little excuse that everybody has, which is I don't have the money to travel. I was a caregiver on a caregiver's budget, crossing off bucket list items like running with the bulls in Spain, flying airplanes, like going to Thailand, ziplining in Costa Rica, on what, most people would consider just really, really little money. And so I was getting tricky. I was travel hacking, and I wanted to share that with the world. So that's how it all started. Was I was getting mad at everyone saying they didn't have the money or they didn't have the time to travel. So I started a blog basically saying, hey, that is BS. Here's exactly step-by-step how I've done it. Flying to Spain for $5, for example, or having, you can fly to Hawaii for $11.20. And it's like, come on, people, free hotels, basically free flights. So I was just so excited. And that transitioned from vlog and blog, where I had a decent following, to so many people asking me to travel with them and to meet them in these places, where I was like, you know what? Like, I could literally just do that. I could just have people travel with me, go on these epic adventures that I'm already good at. I love this stuff. And I could get paid doing it. So I was like, well, I guess we're a tour company now. It was that simple, of just like it makes sense. And so I just wrote on my Facebook, hey, who wants to go run with the bulls in Spain with me? And I just had a bunch of people said yes. And that was my very first trip. I took a group to run with the bulls, and it was one of the greatest trips, if not the greatest trip of my life. And we had so much fun. And that moment was such a shifting moment of like, it's possible. I can do this. I'm not just another broke backpacker, or maybe just another travel blogger. Like this is a real business here.
Yeah, that is so exciting. And thanks for sort of giving us that overview. I always like to go back and unpack some of those moments a little bit, because a lot of our listeners are people like you and me. They're wanting to get their own message out there. Maybe they're entrepreneurs, purpose-driven entrepreneurs. And maybe some of them are, on the fence. They know that there's something that they want to do, but they're still, have their responsibilities, working their day job and so forth. So let's go back to right before all this started. So you said you were a caregiver. You were in Oregon. Is that right?
Yeah. So I'm actually from a town of 300 people in Oregon. Like, I'm not just from Oregon. Like, I'm from a tiny, tiny little town in the woods. And so there's a mill there that my father works at. My mom used to work at. Like everybody in my family going back was either a logger or worked at the mill. So it's just, that's what I expected my life to be of. I just wanted to drive forklift at $18 an hour. Having that mentality of, this is the world, this is reality, Crow, Oregon. And so I married my high school sweetheart at 19 years old and subsequently divorced at 22. And it was really crushing for me and my entire reality because she cheated on me with one of my best friends. And so my entire world basically just came to a halt. Not even came to a halt. It was just, destroyed and ripped away, which at the time, all you see is what you had built being destroyed. You don't see that it creates space for something new. And so in that depression, I was very suicidal. I was in such a bad spot where it was either I'm out of here. I'm either just going to end it, or I'm just going to do the craziest shit that I can think of, because I might as well. Like, these are all extra endings. So I wrote my bucket list. And I wrote that list out of possibility. What would be possible if there was no rules, if there was nothing? Because I'm already going to die, so I might as well just, like, what's the point, and not just going crazy, right? So I wrote the bucket list, and I never really thought that I would do any of it. Like, it was just an idea, a concept of what life could be. But the funny thing is that's all you really need when you're in a suicidal place, is you just need possibility. You just need the possibility and the hope and the little tiny light at the end of the tunnel that it could get better. And that's what it was for me. And eventually I was sitting at work as a caregiver, and I was reading over my list as the person I was taking care of was asleep. And I was just like, do a cartwheel was on there. And it's such a simple thing for most people. For me, I had always told myself I could never do it. Everyone else could do it, but not me. And I was about 50 pounds heavier than I am now. So I YouTubed fat guy doing a cartwheel. And I slow motioned it and I rewound it over and over again, watching him do a cartwheel on YouTube. And eventually I was like, all right, I think I can do this. So I went outside, and it took me about a half hour, and I sprained my wrist and I sprained my groin, but eventually I did a freaking cartwheel. And it changed my perspective of what is possible, because it's something so stupid. But for me, it was so powerful because I always told myself I never could. And that shifted everything. That little tiny moment of doing a cartwheel showed me that I could actually do something that I never thought was possible before.
That is so awesome. I love that you started with something as small as do a cartwheel, right? Because I'll bet there's some other really big things on the list that might have seemed really unachievable, but you went for that one. So Hell Yes Lifer is something to think about when you're thinking about, how could I do that? That's impossible. What's some little step that you could take towards your big dreams, right?
I'm such a fan of that, because so often we say, oh, here's the mountain that I have to climb, when sometimes it's like, take the rock, throw it on the ground, step over the rock, and say, yes, I did it. I did it. I could do it.
Yeah. I interviewed Kathy O'Dowd. She was the first woman to climb Mount Everest from the north and south sides. And even she said, I said, how did you do it? She said, one step at a time. So it's like, it's really like focusing on that. That
was my last trip for the Bucketlist Lifestyle was to Everest Base Camp. And it was while everybody was summiting, and it was very, very intense, but it's such an experience.
Yeah. We could talk more about that's actually one of the reasons I'm talking to you. I saw your video on Facebook, and Nepal is a dream destination for me. So, so let me ask a little bit about some more items that were on that initial bucket list.
Oh yeah. So
then what? You did the cartwheel. Then what?
I went 180 degrees from a cartwheel, and I did the craziest item on my entire bucket list, which is to run with the bulls in Spain.
Oh, sweet.
I thought that in my mind was, this is insane, this is crazy, and I might die doing it. And I genuinely like really did not feel like living anymore. And dying by bull was a lot cooler than in my bathtub, in Oregon. And
Right.
so I went to Spain. I flew to Spain. I sold things and I put a little bit of money on a credit card, figuring I'd never have to pay it off anyways. And literally, it was 1 month from when I found out about my ex to when I ran with the bulls in Spain. Like, that's how fast it happened. Because I was just like, F it. I don't care at all. Like, it doesn't matter. Nothing. This is all BS. And which is, when you don't give a damn, it's magical things happen. So during that experience, I got a horn through my arm, and I felt alive. I felt life flowing through my body and adrenaline. And I genuinely thought that I was going to die during that experience. And that feeling of life, of source energy just flowing through your body, that woke me up to life. I was just in such a negative space, and I was so numb that was what I needed to shift it. And I used that feeling. I chased, and I tried to escape all of my problems and all of my pain. And every moment that I could, I traveled. I worked for 3 months, traveled for 10 days, worked for 3 months, traveled for 10 days. Every moment that I could, I sold everything I owned. I saved up every dollar I could, and I chased that feeling to escape all of my pain. And eventually I discovered personal development and life coaching, and that shifted so much for me in a beautiful men's circle that really, really allowed me to be vulnerable and to not escape my pain anymore, but use travel to chase after a feeling as opposed to running away from a bad feeling.
Yeah. I love that. So again, just to go back to a moment. So there you are in the running of the bulls. And I should say, I went to Pamplona and kind of watched the running of the bulls, but you took it that one big step further, and you were in it. And you got a horn of a bull.
Yeah, straight up my arm. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. And so was it at that moment that's what that kind of made you come alive, or just the experience itself? I'm actually picturing your life as a movie now, actually.
Yeah, it's fine. I hope maybe one day. That was the biggest moment. Like, if you have to put it to one, it was that was the moment that got me hooked forever on travel and experience. Because when you feel that high, it's something where when you just go back into the drudgery of what my life was, now I go back and my life is beautiful. My life is fulfilled. My life is full. So that's one experience, a high of adrenaline. And there's other highs of tapping into myself, the adventure within, and having those realizations, tapping into, like my meditation, or having a dinner with a woman who teaches me something totally new about myself and about the world, and making a new recipe. There's so many things that fulfill me in my life, that's just one little area now. However, in that tiny little town, I had done the same thing day after day after day. And when I experienced something so outside of my comfort zone and so incredible, that it was that was what I wanted to live for now, is let me just go straight back into that. So I lived crazy. I jumped off of really tall things, and I did a lot of dangerous things. I surfed on top of taxis. I got very drunk and did stupid things. I was the crazy backpacker. And that's why my travel blog took off, is because I was telling these stories of the craziest stuff on earth, because I didn't give a damn about my life. And so I would do really, really wild things, and I would tell the truth about it on my blog. And nobody wanted to tell the truth about their experiences in full. Everyone else, all these travel bloggers, were just talking about the light version of what they were doing. And I knew a lot of backpackers that were doing a lot more crazy stuff. I mean, I was hanging out with Yakuza in the back alleys of Japan. I was doing these crazy things that when I wrote about doing LSD and Mardi Gras, and I'm just like, I know my mom's going to read this, and it's embarrassing for me. Like, I don't want to, but at the same time, I want to be fully authentic. And this is what makes me different, is I don't have a fear of judgment of my readers or anybody else.
I kind of feels like going back to that moment where you basically felt like I'm at the end of my life, and everything after this is a bonus anyway. So, and then you woke up, and then it's sort of like, okay, now, it doesn't matter what people think. You kind of like sloughed off all of the shoulds and woulds or whatever. What do people think? And now you're just living for yourself. And I love it. I love your energy around it. Tell me just like a few things that come to mind. It sounds like you've had a lot of different adventures, but give us a little snapshot here and there of some of you just mentioned the Yakuza, for example.
For sure.
What else?
Oh, wow. I mean, I've been to all the wonders of the world, which were absolutely incredible. Experiencing cultural festivals is what I love most. So in my experience of travel, it's best to travel around a date of a cultural festival. So for example, if you're going to go to Spain anyways, why not just go to Spain, have that experience of like the normal Spain, and then go to Running of the Bulls as well, and then go back to your normal Spain. If you're going to go to Thailand, why not have your normal Thailand experience, but also go during a full moon party or the Songkran festival of their New Year's with the giant water fight. So that's one thing where I'm lucky enough to have been to every major cultural festival on earth.
Wow.
And that's what I love to travel. And I get to experience a deep sense of culture, and I get the day-to-day, because I don't just go for that. I stay for when it's a normal Tuesday and everyone's going to work in Bangkok, and it's just the way that it is. So that's my experience. It's a beautiful thing. And I actually set up my business around that now, where, for example, we went to Holi Festival in India, where we got to experience India, but we also got to experience Holi Festival, where they throw all the colored powders, and it's, the largest festival on the planet. And we're going to the full moon party in Thailand next. We're going to Peru next, but directly after that, probably by the time this one actually goes out, we'll be in Peru, experiencing Machu Picchu. And so, yeah, it's either a wonder of the world or an experience around a cultural festival, or just something that was really fun that I love doing.
Yeah. What a great hell yes life you're living here, Chase. I just want to get in my little street cred here. We didn't really mention before we got on here, but I've lived abroad. I lived in Barcelona. I've done some, pretty good amount of traveling around Europe, and went to South America. Went to Machu Picchu. And so on. Anyway, but just to say, I'm there with you, and
Cool.
I'm really itching to get back out there. So
for sure. Have you been to any cultural festivals before, like Carnival in Rio, or maybe like any? Oh, I mean, you said Running with the Bull.
Yeah, I went to the Running of the Bulls. In Barcelona, there's a lot of great festivals. The Mercè Festival. There's one in Seville around. I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's around Easter time. Crazy things that you would just, if you didn't leave the United States, you would be like, I can't believe that this is actually happening. But yeah. I'd love to go to is it called the Holi Festival in India?
Holi Festival in India. It's one of my favorite experiences on the planet, if not it's definitely top 2 or 3 favorite experiences, because you get to go to you get to go to the Taj, and you get to go to Jaipur and different places, but then you also get to experience the world's largest festival, and it's just so wild. And we go to this temple that in Vrindavan, where it actually began, where Holi Festival began, which is the festival of colors, but it's also their celebration of light over darkness. And it's a beautiful celebration, because you get blessings from their holy men, and they give you little sweets and stuff, and they cover you in flowers, and it's wild and fun.
Wow, that's amazing. So what do I want to ask next? Let's see. So you've already, I really like your take on this too. It's just like, hey, here's everything about me and everything that I've been through. And you just told us your challenges that you went through, before starting this business, and that led to this. Okay. So then let's talk about maybe some challenges that you've experienced along the way. So you said you had that moment where it was kind of like, hey, I'm doing this travel blog, it's going well. And then you shifted into, hey, maybe I can take some friends. But what about, was there any time in the midst there where you were kind of not sure what to do?
Oh.
Again, thinking of our listeners out there that might have some ideas, but they're still in vagueness.
Totally. So first of all, when I did the bucketlist-lifestyle.com as a blog, I never had any intention of making any money. I was simply pissed off at people for having that excuse. I knew the magic pill that they needed, and it was like, I'm just putting this out there, and I worked my butt off on it. I'd say the biggest moment was quitting my job as a caregiver. I worked as a caregiver for 6 years, and I had only known you have a job and you work and that's what you do. And I had this realization. This was the biggest realization. I think for all you listeners, this is really, really important to know, is the realization was that I have 2 options. I can either stay as a caregiver work as a caregiver, do the bucket list lifestyle on the side, still travel, all those things, and I have my security. Or I can try and go full-time with the bucket list lifestyle and probably fail. Realistically, most entrepreneurs at some point fail, and that means not necessarily totally fail, but shift it into something new. All I knew was there's definitely a possibility that I'm going to fail at this. And I said, okay, what happens then? And I go, well, I guess I'd just go back to being a caregiver, or digging ditches or whatever. And I go, so that's my worst case scenario, is I fail and I go back to being a caregiver. So actually, my worst case scenario is where I am right now. The thing that I'm scared about is actually where I'm standing right now in the situation I am in.
Right.
And that was so mind-blowing to me. And it made it a no-brainer. I was like, okay, cool. And maybe I can't get this exact job again. Maybe I can't get it at the, and I've been working here for 6 years, so I'm making more money than I would if I just started. It's not about that, though. It's knowing that it's worth the chance, knowing that all you can do is fail and come back to where you are.
Yeah, yeah. There's I think Tim Ferriss in one of his TED Talks, I think he talks about interrogating your fears. I think it's somewhat similar to what you're talking about there. Like, rather than just, because I think our fears are kind of like, I'm going to end up homeless under a bridge or something, right? Yeah. And so it sounds like you interrogated your fears a bit and realized, wait, that's actually not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is I'm just going to end up back in a job like I have right now. So so that's great. What would you say? Okay, this is actually a little bit of a selfish question, but I'm sure there's other people out there in my situation. I have a family. I have a day job, and I'm trying to get my business going. Responsibilities, etc. So I hear those voices. I don't feel like I would love to just like quit my job tomorrow and just do my business, but et cetera, et cetera. So what do you have to say to people in our situation?
Thank you so much for asking this question, because one of my favorite things to tell people when I'm at a speaking gig or at a conference or anything is saying, you don't have to quit everything. You don't have to drop everything in order to live the life of your dreams, unless the life of your dreams is to quit everything. So often we make it an extreme of, if I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I have to just throw away all of my safety and security. I have to take the leap without, making plans, when that's not totally true. I would suggest that it's very similar actually to a bucket list, where you write it, you plan it, and you live it. Those are the 3 steps of a bucket list. And it's similar to taking the leap as an entrepreneur. Is you figure out what you want to do. So you write it, you get clear on what you want to do, you plan it. So you say, okay, how much money do I need to save up in order to do that? How many months am I going to give myself to make a profit and come back to at least meeting my expenses? Let's say, for example, you go, well, I need to cover all my expenses 8 months after quitting my job. Like I saved up 8 months, and now I have, and that 8 month, if I'm not at least breaking even and just covering my expenses, then I'm going to get a job again. And that's my thing. So there you have your plan, and then the actual leap from, it's not just possible, I'm going to take the action. It's not an idea. I'm not wishing on birthday candles. I'm actually going to take that leap. And for me personally, I like to have that plan in place where I can mentally, at least, if my fear is coming up and my fear is not helping me make this decision, it's actually a bad thing, I'm going to make my decision a little bit more from my head. And I know that the best thing to do is always align with your heart and your head, right? That's always best. However, there's experiences where you don't want to listen to your head because it's driving you crazy, and your heart knows the truth and you know what you need to do. It's like being in a bad relationship where you know you need to end this relationship, but your brain is going, yeah, but. So you have to turn off the brain and focus on the heart. The same thing around your emotions. When you're having a lot of uncomfortable emotions come up around a decision that you know is smart, that you know if you don't do, you're going to regret. And you say, okay, I'm going to focus on my head right now because my heart is going crazy, and I'll align it in a moment. But while I make this decision, I'm going to know I'm going to do what's right, and I'm going to focus on making my plan and doing it mentally.
I love that. I love that. It's kind of like, it sounds simple what you're saying there, but have I done that myself? Even like, okay, I'm going to make a plan and then I'm going to take action. But it's sort of like the kind of creating some sort of a structure that and an intention, right? So it's not just someday I'm going to start a business and quit my job. Yeah, it's like you're in a framework of, okay, I'm in this period where I'm doing this, right?
Because it'll always be tomorrow. It'll always be a year from now. Oh, I'll have the money then. And then, oh, I have to pay for my yearly insurance and my car insurance. And this came up and the kid had got sick, and there's always something else. So it's like, and you'll never have enough, especially if you don't even know what enough is. If you don't even have a number on what you need, it'll never be enough, because you're basing that enough on your feeling of it's not enough. Oh, it'll never be enough. And that's not necessarily true if you make a plan and you figure out what are our monthly expenses, what is your wife bringing in, how, what are we going to have for an emergency situation, what's my fallback. It's totally fine to make your plan, especially if you have priorities that are above your own ambitions. So that's really important, is knowing that if you have children, very likely that is your number one priority in your life, above your own ambitions. And so you put those first. It's not just, throw everything to the wind and you go off on your own and everything will work out. No, everything will not work out necessarily. It likely statistically will not work out. So you need to look at it with reality, and you got to make plans with that in number one.
Yeah, I have this concept or whatever that I've come across over the years, and I've been starting to work with coaching clients too, and it's come up as a useful one, which is like clarity versus vagueness. So it's like just being in vagueness, I want to do that someday, or I'm not sure what kind of business. So it's just like the goal is to get to clarity around that. So clarity around like, what is that thing? What is the plan? What's the time frame? What is the the financial situation, and the clarity I just find is a grounding piece. I just rather than it coming from this like this ungrounded place of like, oh, I hope this is gonna work out. It's like I know this is gonna I know this is gonna be the right action for me now. So
sure, it makes sense, and know your numbers. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you got to know your numbers anyways. So know them before you're an entrepreneur. Show up as the person that you want to become by getting your numbers down of, this is how much I need, this is how much I'm expected to make, knowing that things are likely going to go wrong. I just had this last week, I had a lot of things go wrong in my business, in the sense of I had money that was expected to come in. More money than I've ever made in a single month was supposed to come in this month, and it didn't happen. But I didn't freak out. Sure, I felt like shit. I laid in my bed and I ate a lot of spaghetti and I watched Netflix, and I allowed myself to feel crappy because I had an expectation from a verbal commitment of, this is what's going to happen. And when I sent the invoice, they said, sorry, it's not happening. And so I had to overcome that by saying like, okay, so I thought of all the reasons why this is a great thing, right? All the personal development things, change your state, Tony Robbins, everything, right? Mm-hmm. And then I said, you know what? I really just don't feel like changing my state. I feel like feeling like shit for a couple of days, being okay with that, and then knowing that I have this shift date. I allow myself to feel like crap for 3 days.
Oh, that's good.
And then after that third day, if I still don't feel great, then that's when I'll use my personal development tools to shift out of that. But those emotions are coming up for a reason. Not every reason is reasonable, in the sense of sometimes you can't get out of that, and it's no longer reasonable to live your life productively. Feel it, accept it, love that feeling, understand, be compassionate for yourself, and then know when it's time to move on. And for me, it's already passed, and I felt it. It felt like crap, and I'm ready to move on. And today I felt great, and I did my full morning routine, and I know now that every single thing that happened, of course, was perfect. But at the same time, like, now I understand that I'm actually going to be making more money than I was supposed to be making from another new opportunity that came in. So it's like, in the end, everything is perfect, as many of us know. But just doing that in the moment isn't always so easy.
Yeah. Well, I like that approach, actually, where you allow yourself those feelings, but then you give it a little bit of a time limit there. You don't want to be like 3 months from now, I can't believe that happened. But I find if I don't allow myself to feel those feelings at least a bit, then it's just like, I actually believe in a law of attraction and the secret, that visioning and stuff, that does work for me. But if I'm just trying to say, no, I'm fine, everything's fine. No, it didn't bother me. This was the way it was supposed to be. without feeling those feelings first, then it's inauthentic.
You're out of integrity with yourself and with the world.
Yeah, you got to get those feelings out, and then you, as you said, then you can realize, oh, this is
fake vibration. You can't fake your vibes.
Yeah. You can't go high vibe without going low vibe first. I don't know. Anyway, okay. Well, I want to make sure there's a lot of different directions we could go. Hell yes, lifers, if you want to go deep into the travel hacking world and destinations and so forth, you got to check out the bucketlist.lifestyle.com. I want to get a little taste of everything, and I want to hear a little bit about your world records. So let's start with that. So let me say this. So your bucket list seems like a lot of it was travel, but and you had a cartwheel on there. So what were some other things that were on there?
Well, it was actually never on my bucket list to break any world records. It just kind of happened. But there's many things on the bucket list that I was too scared to put on, that even in my wildest dreams I would never be able to accomplish. So for example, I have the world record for the fastest ascent to Everest Base Camp, the fastest recreational ascent to Everest Base Camp, which is 4 days, which is really crazy. And really hard. It's basically a marathon every day, uphill, up a mountain. Wow. And then I have a lot of silly ones. I have like 4 really silly world records.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
Fun. I go to this thing called the World Domination Summit, and we always break world records every year. And so one of them was, for example, the longest yoga chain. So it was a group of people, and we all did for 1 hour yoga positions for 1 hour holding it. We beat India by like 300 people in our group. It was awesome, and it was super fun. And the most people, like the world's longest high five chain, and we just as our group every year break a world record, which is super fun. So the only one that I've ever done by myself is to the fastest recreational ascent to Everest Base Camp. And then all the others were like our fun group, awesome stuff. And then the bucket list itself had a lot of wild ones, like Carnival in Rio, flying an airplane by myself. That was really exhilarating. Groupon.com, $59, you can fly an airplane. Yeah, ridiculous. Take off and land. First time. Just saying, it's very dangerous, and they let you do it.
I'm just saying, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You're here to tell the tale.
And you can honestly, anyone listening, you can just simply go to my website and click on my bucket list, and it shows all 100 items. There is 100 items. I'm 80 items through right now, so 19 left, and I'm really, really close to completing them. And there's many on there that weren't actually epic in the sense of like travel even. So I was never planning on showing anyone this list. So it was very personal to me in the sense of I had things on there like get to know my father, like genuinely, get to know my grandpa, openly talk to them, tell my mother that I love her and give her flowers not on Mother's Day. Actually build a treehouse for my children and coach their team, and just things that I always wanted to do that it was just a possibility, but it was always too scary. So eventually I did get to know my grandpa. We went on a road trip for like 8 or 9 hours together and talked everything from his past relationships to his fears, excitements, and my father being able to, now we have a relationship where I feel that I'm open to talk about anything. And that had nothing to do with him. It had nothing to do with a shift that he made. It had a shift that I made. It was all about the shift that I made to be fully in integrity with myself at all times and to not fear his judgment, because he's not going to judge me. He's my father and he loves me. And my story that I always told myself was that, oh no, that's just not our relationship. It should just surface level. It's just not the way that it is, as opposed to understanding that it can be anything that I want it to be, but I have to first take action. And I can't just assume that things are going to change without anything changing from my end.
Yeah. Yeah, those are some, so it's not all about the big adventure. There's a lot of personal things in there as well, which leads me to, I think, a question that our listeners would benefit from, which is what tips as the bucket list lifestyle guy, is there any specific tips that you have as far as putting together a bucket list?
For sure. So as I said before, like write it, plan it, live it is the general structure. But there's one really big tip in here, which is when you're writing your bucket list, you're not writing it for this version of you. You're writing it for what you will become. Like maybe right now you can't do some of those things on the list. Maybe right now you're writing, I want to run a marathon, and you're like, yeah, but I can't do that. Yeah, you can't do that right now, but you can become the person who can. So when you're writing it, don't think of the financial problems that you're having right now, because those very likely will shift, especially if you're working towards living your dream life and a hell yes life. And when you're thinking of these things, don't say that's not reasonable or that's not for me when you actually want to do it. It's like, do you want to do it? Great, put it on the list. Do you want to do that? And the beautiful thing is, it's yours. You can change it. Don't think, oh, if I put it on the list and I take it off, I'll feel like I didn't accomplish something that I wanted. No, this is a blueprint for your life. This is simply something to look at. When I wrote my list, I had no idea that I wanted to travel so much. I had no clue. And I wrote down all these things, and I was looking, I was like, there's like 18 countries alone just on this bucket list. And I had no idea that I had a desire to travel. And now it was like, wow, I got to get on this. Like I should start. And so when you're writing your list, oftentimes it shows you like what your real truth is. And it can be scary to write down your truth and to own your truth and say, this is what I actually want for my life. I do want to be financially abundant. I do want to take care of my parents and retire them. I do want to have that conversation with my child that I'm so fucking scared to have. I want to feel this way. On my bucket list, it was think to myself that I'm living my dream life. I wrote that on my bucket list with no idea how I was going to accomplish that, no idea what that even meant at all. And I was in Colombia at a festival, and I was on a mountain looking over everything, and I was so happy, and I was so full of life. And I just knew that I was absolutely living my dream life. I was free to do what I wanted when I wanted and wake up with who I wanted around me. I was deeply happy, and I was debt free. That was also something on my bucket list, to be debt free. So I was debt free as well at that time. And it just felt so good because I had spent my entire life in debt, and it just felt, my entire adult life in debt. And it just felt so good to be free from so many things and to be fully in integrity with myself. And so I was living my dream life. I was able to cross that one off probably 4 years or 3.5, 4 years after writing it. And I thought that I might never be able to cross that off my list, to truly live my dream life, like every aspect of my life being exactly as I would want in a dream scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something about putting it down, right? And then, maybe you even are I don't know if you initially were sharing it with people right off the bat, but I'm actually looking up here at my vision board, which I think is another access point to that, the bucket list. And actually I'm sitting here in it's a rented house, but we were living in this I'll be very brief here, but we're living in this other house that had like carpet in the kitchen, no backyard, no dishwasher. And so I put together this little vision list of what we would want in our next house. Tiled floors in the kitchen, dare to dream, and a dishwasher and a backyard and an upstairs office. And I'm sitting here in my vision right now because we have all those things in our place. And that's just one small example, but it's like, if you articulate it and put it out there, it seems like the universe starts to cooperate with you to a certain
manifestation.
extent.
And the beautiful thing around manifestation is, so I have a belief around manifestation that some people might not have, but I've noticed that it really helps a lot of people who aren't necessarily, they feel like they're in a box of, I don't do any woo-woo stuff, and I don't know, universe, manifestation. So I have a better way to explain this for quote unquote normal everyday Joe.
Yeah.
So the way manifestation works is you claim something that you truly want, or a way of being that you would like to be, right? So you're like clear on, let's say I want a business partner that will invest $100,000 in my vision, and they aren't going to expect anything in return right away, and blah, blah, blah. They have these qualities. They've already been the CEO of 3 multi-million-dollar companies, boom, 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 right? And you have this vision for what you want. Manifestation works, the way that I view it, at least, is you're putting that idea in the back of your head into your unconscious.
Yeah.
And your unconscious now knows to focus on things that will actually have something to do around that. So for example, you'll be at a networking conference, and all the way in the corner, you'll just realize, like, I have no idea why. I just feel like I got to go talk to that guy or that girl. I don't get it. Or they'll be pulled to you because the way that you're showing up that well, now your subconscious knows, okay, what does someone who is a CEO of a multi-million-dollar company look like? What does someone who's financially abundant in that way as an angel investor look like? Okay, well, they would have their shoulders back, and this is all subconscious, but they have their shoulders back, they're dressed in a certain manner, they speak in a certain way, they show up in the way that, even from their shoes, your subconscious is picking up on everything. And when you go over to them or they come over to you, you have no idea that on a conscious level that they are your person that you've been looking for, but just so happens that this is exactly what they do, and you've manifested them.
Yeah.
And you're going, holy crap, it was the universe. And maybe it was, because I don't know anything about anything. I'm just a guy trying to figure things out. But for me, it makes perfect sense that our subconscious is actually dictating what we focus on, as well as an energetic vibrational match for when, if you want to go back to the woo-woo a little bit, of I'm vibing at a certain level. Everyone and everything is vibrating. That's just a fact. But I'm vibrating at a certain level and someone else is vibrating at a certain level. We're going to be attracted to each other more. But either way you want to look at it.
Yeah. I've even gone like one level up from that. Like, even if you didn't believe in even that level, which sounds perfectly reasonable to me, that, gosh, it just couldn't hurt to articulate to yourself what you want. So therefore, when you run across it or start to see things that are similar to it, and be like, hey, that, versus not knowing what you want,
A really important thing though, about this is you need to become the person who can handle that manifestation.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to win the lottery. I want to win the lottery. Oh, I won the lottery. And now you blow it and you get hooked on drugs. Oh, I want to start a business. I want to quit my job. I want to do all these things. And guess what? You manifested it. And now you got fired a week early and you're never saved any money and you have no idea how to run a business. You need to become the person who can handle the manifestation. If you want an investor to come to you, you better have all your numbers ready. You better have read every book you need to know. You better have talked to accountants, talked to lawyers about what does it take? What does it look like to actually bring someone on? What information do you need to know when that person actually comes to you? Become that person. So when it actually realizes and when it actualizes, you'll be ready.
Yeah. Become the person, hell yes, lifers. Chase, I think we'll start to wind down a little bit here. I don't want to leave this conversation without asking you about your time on The Price is Right.
Oh my gosh.
I saw a video of you on there, and that looked like that was a bucket list item. Is that right?
Yes, it absolutely was a bucket list item. It was, thank you for
What was that like?
Hilarious. So honestly, it's been a dream of mine since I was a kid. I've always wanted to go on The Price is Right. I wrote it on the bucket list thinking that, I don't know, this one's pretty far-fetched. I decided, I just claimed it. I just owned it. I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get on The Price is Right. So I flew to Los Angeles and I stayed at a friend's house on their couch all week. I went every single morning at 5 a.m., waited outside in this long line, got interviewed by the same guy, Stan. He's the producer, Stan. And every single morning, he'd interview every single person going in for 15 to 30 seconds. That's all you got. He just said, where are you from? What do you do? Basically. And then next person. And you had to just show up with the right energy. Every day I spent 14 to 16 hours watching. They recorded 2 episodes a day. So I would go to the first one and the second one. And I never got picked over and over again all week until the very last one. And I just decided to go crazy. I was like, I've been going wild. I've been going like an 8.5 out of 10, but I've never gone a 10 out of 10. And I was like, let's just like, I've tried everything. This is my last chance, my 10th time trying this week. I'm just going to go crazy. And I did. And I was just like, put me on the stage, Stan. Put me up there. Fireworks, Stan. Fireworks are going to happen. And I was just like, I was jumping up and down and I was just going crazy. And I made friends with all of the backstage people. They're the redcoats, the people that work backstage. And when I finally got picked, I was going crazy, of course. Drew Carey, is like, oh my, he recognized me because every day I was in the front row with my orange t-shirt that said cross it off my bucket list. And so he would talk to me in between the tapings and he'd just like make fun of me and we'd bullshit back and forth. And so when I got called, you can even see it on the clip. He's like, oh, it's you. Because he was like, oh man, you finally got on. And at the commercial break, after they called me up, it was a commercial, and all the redcoats from behind the stage and Stan all came down and gave me high fives and hugs. And Stan said, you know why I picked you? And I said, why? And he goes, persistence.
Oh,
That's
nice.
exactly why. And I got on and I won a trip, an international trip, and a bunch of cool luggage, like $9,000 worth of stuff. And I was
Oh my God.
one click away on the big wheel from getting the dollar. One click away, but it was genuinely, if not the funnest, one of the funnest experiences of my entire life. Like,
Oh my
I was
God.
so ecstatic after all week. I knew all the prices after the whole week, and I just had a blast, and I just let loose. It was great. You can even find it on my Facebook or on YouTube. There's like the little 1-minute version I've edited down.
Yeah, I saw that. That is so awesome. It makes me want to. I think it makes me think, like, you know, something like that is like anything that you can think of to do, you can do, but you just have to think of doing it. And then, like you said, right? What were your 3 steps? It's like,
it's write it, plan it, live it. So you have to
write it, plan it, live it. Yeah.
And I made the plan, and I made the T-shirt that said orange T-shirt, cross it off my bucket list. Like, you have to actually plan it. And I took the time off, and I was like, okay, this is happening no matter what. I'm doing this. And I told everyone I was doing it. And it was scary to, like, I went on Facebook and I said, I'm getting on the Price is Right. And every day I failed over and over to get on the Price is Right, over and over and over. And then eventually, the very last time, not only the last time for that day, but the last recording of the entire season was going out. And they
wow. So this was really it.
That last one was actually full, and it was sold out. And at the last, I was about to go home, and I said, you know what? I'll just give the Redcoats a high five and say, sorry guys, I tried. And they go, where are you going? I'm like, well, I'm going home. It's already sold out for the last one. And they go, no, bro, we saved you a ticket. We got you. Come on in, one more try. So I was able to get that last chance without being nice and giving high fives and making friends with everyone. If I was in my own zone, but I made friends with everybody, and I had so much fun in line with people from all over the country, and I just had a blast, and people wanted to help me. And I think that's what's important, is if you just have fun and you're nice and you want to help other people and just be fun, other people want to genuinely help me. And people have tried to help me cross off my bucket list items too, people from all around the world. And so it's like, it's a beautiful feeling to know that people are genuinely excited about helping other people. And if you're nice, it'll be you.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, what people like you and many other people that I've talked to, and hopefully me as well, you know, it's inspiring to other people to see people like yourself who have kind of woken up out of this this storyline that we all get about, like, oh, this is what we're supposed to do, and this is how we're supposed to live, and be very afraid and stick at your job, and, you know, retire at 65. And so, so when you go and do the Price is Right, it's like, hey, maybe I'm going to go down and try to get on the Price is Right, or some other show, something like that. So it's just got my gears turning here a little bit. Well, Chase, it's been great having you on the show. As we start to wind down, I always like to ask, is there any, you've already given us a ton of value, as they say, but like any last tip or resource or quote that comes to mind, no pressure here, for that, just imagine that person that's out there that might be a few steps back from where you are now. You know, maybe they're back, you know, hopefully not as you know, down as where you were at the beginning there, but you know, they don't know what to do exactly. But what might you give them? What might advice?
I'm gonna actually repeat something I said earlier. So if anyone had fast forwarded past it to this, just know that I think one of the most important things that I shared was that you're currently, if you're in the position where you're wanting to actually take a leap in your life, you're in your worst case scenario right now. All you can do is you can either stay where you're at, or you can go on the path of your dreams. And if you fail at your dreams, you go back to your reality you're living now. Maybe it's not exactly the same, but don't get too caught up on every single little tiny detail. It's worth it. Take that leap, because you're just going to go right back to where you are, or something very similar. And it's absolutely worth it. Yes, you might fail. And if you're going to stay where you are, you might as well, you're just living your failure. So you take the leap and do it.
Right. It's not that you're going to die or explode or something. It's that you're going to, you know, if you really look at it like, oh, I'll just probably end up back here. So,
and a little tiny thing around that is, please plan it as well. You don't, you know, I was sharing, take that leap, But a big part of this as well was planning before you jumped. So I'm not just another guy saying, sell it all, jump out of your current life. I'm saying be very smart about it. Look at everything you need to look at, plan out your numbers, get everything ready that you need to do, and become the person that can handle that life that you're really wanting to live. And then it'll happen, truly will, as long as you're able to actually look at everything and say, I'm ready to freaking take that step because I've done what it takes to actually do it.
Love it, Chase. So tell us where on the internet we can find you and anything that's coming up that you might want to mention.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, I know I mentioned travel hacking before. I have a free ebook on my website. It's called the bucketlistlifestyle.com. It's a free ebook. Just go ahead and go to the ebook, click on it, enter your email, and it sends you basically all the basics you need to know about travel hacking. I have a book coming out September 6th. I don't know when this is going to be launching, but it's probably going to be around there.
Yeah.
It's called Young Divorce, and it's actually a self-help book for people who are young going through a divorce. It's the only book out there right now for young people going through such a hard time, and I decided to put that out. So September 6th, that is going out. You can find it on Amazon and Kindle. There's also an audiobook coming out. So, but other than that, if you guys are down for an epic adventure, either find me on Facebook. You can just simply copy and paste my name below this into Facebook. I always love connecting with badass people. We literally take people on the most epic experiences on earth. So come and join me in Thailand or Hawaii or Brazil for Carnival, and let's go on an adventure together.
Awesome. I may have to do that myself at some point here, Chase. Sounds awesome. Well, I always like to end the show by saying hell yes together with my guests. Are you ready to do that on the count of three?
I am.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
Hell
yes.
Oh, I didn't get the length. I need to breathe deeper.
Do you want to do it?
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's great. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Thanks so much for joining us, Chase, and we will catch you next time.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.